Welcome back to the Daily Word. I have the opportunity of walking you through the final chapters of the book of Revelation. Remember, the theme of the book of Revelation is really the answer to the Lord's Prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. What you've gone through in chapters 1 to 15 is basically the judgments. Finally, God's going to make right that which has been wrong. And that brings up always the question of, well, how can a God of love bring judgment? Well, ask a mother who has a child with cancer. And why does she have such a bad attitude towards the cancer? Well, it's because the cancer is destroying her child. God's going to judge evil. We get this idea that somehow God's immoral and his judgments are going to be against the innocents. Remember, Jesus was one who said it's going to become like the days of Noah. I'll go back to Genesis chapter 6, verse 5. In the days of Noah, it says that the intent of every man, the intent of every human being was to do evil. There's no innocence here. As a matter of fact, you're going to see even in chapter 16, even with the judgment, as tough as it is, there's no repentance. So let's pick it up here in chapter 16. And he says, "And I heard a voice from the temple saying to the seven angels, go and pour out the seven bowls of the wrath of God into the earth." Remember, the judgments began in chapter 6 with the seal judgments. And those seven judgments, they were really not even supernatural. It's like God just removed his hand of protection and let us suffer the consequences of our own evil. But he does the first six seals. When he finally breaks open the seventh seal, remember, it consists of the seven trumpet judgments. And those are covered in chapters 8 and 9. But he doesn't blow the seventh trumpet, but rather you have this pause explaining what's going on the earth. But when you get here to chapter 16, he's going to break that seventh trumpet, which that consists of the seven bowl judgments poured out by these seven angels that Jesus is going to use to bring judgment. It says, so the first angel went and poured out his bowl into the earth. And where you see with the trumpet judgments, 1/3 of the earth was judged. But with these bowl judgments, they're poured out very quickly. This whole thing, all seven of these could happen within a week. And this has to do with the total earth. So this is the final judgment. And you see in verse 2, it's going to fall on man. He gets boils and there's physical suffering. Then you're going to see in verse 3, the second angel pours out his bowl, and that's against the sea, saltwater sea. And so that's destroyed. Then you're going to find out that the third pours out his bowl, and that's against the fresh water. So water's taken away. Interesting. Man, sea, water. You're going to see the fourth one's going to go after basically heat. It's like the wattage goes up, but the light goes down. And so God removes all those sources of light. And what we need for heat from the sun is increased. So the very objects of his creation that we basically had to have to live, God's just removing. And he's also removing them because they've become gods to man at that time. Well, then we see in verse 10, the fifth angel pours out his bowl upon the throne of the beast. Now he's going to bring judgment upon this final false ruler that's taken over as dictator over the world. Then we come to verse 13, what's been known as the Battle of Armageddon. The Battle of Armageddon is actually described way back in Daniel chapter 11 and chapter 12. But this is basically where these other nations that are sick and tired of the Antichrist, the beast who has his headquarters in Jerusalem, well, he's going to meet them to battle them. And so the kings from the north and from the east and from the south, they're all going to come together and they meet in this huge valley called Megiddo. The Hebrew word for mountain is Har. Har-Mageddon is from the mountain overlooking this valley that many battles in history have been fought. And here, this is the final battle. They all come together and they think they're coming to battle each other and battle the Antichrist and to destroy his rule. But this really is setting it up for the seventh bowl. With the seventh bowl being poured by this angel, the earth gives way. And then what you have basically is exactly what Zechariah 14 talks about. The seventh bowl judgment is the actual coming of Jesus Christ. And so that is our hope, is that Jesus is going to come and he's going to make right all things that have been wrong. Many people have a hard time believing that Jesus Christ is actually going to return. But you do know his return is referred to over 300 times in the New Testament alone. One out of every 25 verses in the New Testament talks about the second advent, the second Christmas, the second coming of Jesus Christ. Every New Testament author will make mention of it. Remember in Acts chapter 1, before Jesus ascends up to heaven, is caught up in a cloud like he moves into another dimension? Well, remember the two angels that came and they said, this same Jesus will return in like manner. Book of Revelation chapter 1 verse 7 begins with the same promise, that coming out of a cloud like from another dimension, Jesus returns. And all our promises, all our hopes is going to come to the coming of Jesus Christ. This is what motivates you. This is, Paul talks about in 1 Corinthians 13 that we're left with faith, hope, and love. Faith is the object, our trust in Jesus Christ and what he's done for us. Love is how we express that faith. But hope is what motivates us. That's what gets us up in the morning. And our hope is the blessed hope, the coming of Jesus Christ. And here he will bring judgment, and then he will bring his kingdom on this earth. So the point for the day is you win. Persevere. Your hope is real.